I was born on East 83rd Street near Woodland Avenue on July the 19th, 1911. And they gave me, the doctor sent a name in. My name was Mabel. And after the war, the doctor wanted all of us to get our birth certificates. So when he found out it was Mabel, we had to have it changed to Harriet Catherine. But one of the neighbors' name was Mabel, and they think they got it mixed up with the doctor, because I was born at home and he was just lived down the street, and the neighbors all helped, when anything was going on. So, at first, the doctor was sent to Pennsylvania or New York for a introduction or that, because he was a reserve officer, and he was called in a year before Pearl Harbor. And then he was sent to Rockford, Illinois, and we were there, I think, a year and a half, or you celebrated your first birthday there. And then Pat was born Greenville, Mississippi, so we were sent down there, I think, about a year, or a little more than a year in Rockford, Illinois. And then any place in the world, because the Finks were down in Mississippi, and they said, "Oh, what a place." And didn't you know we were sent down to Greenville, Mississippi, and all the places that we could have been sent. But they had just built a whole new camp there in Greenville. At that time, then got separated from the Air Force was with the regular Army, and then they divided it. So your father decided he wanted to be in the Air Force. So he had to go to Texas to learn different things. And, Pat was born in King's Daughters Hospital in town. And one day I woke up and I looked out in the street, and there's a little mouse crawling all the way across in the hospital, and I thought, a mouse in the hospital, I couldn't believe it. But when we were down in Greenville, we were there a year or year and a half, and your father was slated to be transferred. So they gave us a farewell party, and the women's group gave me a tea party and luncheon and everything, and then his orders were rescinded. And he stayed then in Greenville, and then we were transferred to Seymour, Indiana. Why there, I don't know. But anyway, he was there, head of the hospital at that time. He was just one of the doctors in the hospital down in Greenville, but he was head of the hospital in Seymour, Indiana. And that's where CJ was born. He was born in the hospital, base hospital, Army or Air Force. And one of the doctors that was in the service delivered him, and so that was fine. And I think Grandma and Grandpa, they just drove there because it wasn't too far, at Seymour, Indiana. And then all that time they moved all of our belongings, because he started our reserve officer, and down in Greenville, Mississippi, then up in Seymour, Indiana, and then he was a regular then in the Air Force. So they said to have one more move that the government would pay for. So we put all of our things in storage in Seymour, Indiana, and he was transferred down to Panama City, Florida. So we rented a furnished house down there, down near the place where they launched the ships. We could see go out across the road right by the ocean there, and you could see them launching the ship. We were down there once to see them. I stopped at a baker shop. I said, I want a birthday cake for my son. And they said, you got to order or something and just turn so much sugar or whatever it was. So when I got home from the thing, we put a 1 pound coffee can and put a paper around it and put a candle on it. That was his first birthday cake. We took a picture of him.
Where were you on December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor Day?
Oh, Pearl Harbor Day. I remember when that was when war was declared. We were shopping at a store, I guess getting some ice cream or something, and I was pregnant with Pat, and we had you along, and then they announced that war was declared. And I think it was on a Sunday, I can remember, because we went down in this ice cream place, and so then when we got home, your father got orders. He couldn't leave any place. You know, he had to be there and be on call all the time. And we couldn't drive to another city or visit anybody, and so he had to be on call on Pearl Harbor Day. Well, with no war, I wondered why. I had some cousins or that were joined the Army, too, that were in there, but we didn't know why he was called in. Didn't have any idea, that there would really be a war. But he was called in. He was a reserve officer because he had to make some money during going to medical school, and I guess they got paid being a reserve officer. I think so, and had to spend 2 weeks in camp, after on their summer vacation, and they would go. I think it was someplace in Michigan.
And what were the feelings the few days after that?
Oh, I was just sick. I didn't know what was going to happen, with us. That was when Pat was when I was pregnant with Pat before. Yeah, and didn't know what was going to happen. We were the guests of everybody. We stayed on the base, and they had doings, at parties and dinners, and you communicated with all the other people, on the base. All you saw was people in the service, in the Army. That was Army at first, and then was at the Air Force. But we didn't. The only civilians we knew we rented a house on upstairs and knew the people that lived downstairs, and the people next door. There were a bunch of old maids, and they just loved to see you when you were walking around. You were little. And then I remember one time I was scrubbing the kitchen floor, and I was crying. My tears were going down because I was getting homesick, I guess, for being in the service and that. But and then the one time you fell down the stairs, and that one of those little walker things, I had the door open, and good thing it wasn't a whole long stairs, because it was a few steps down and then to go downstairs, when we lived upstairs. And so you went out there and you fell down the 2 or 3 steps, and I called your father, and he came, and we took you to the doctor, or I guess to the Army base or the Air Force base, and had x-rays and that, and we were okay, just bumped. And then when you're in the service, the colonel comes to visit you within a certain 2 weeks or something. So this one one Sunday I thought, I'm not going to do the dishes that we ate, and I left the dishes there, and I said, we'll just relax, and then the doorbell rang, and here was a colonel and his wife making a visit. So we gave them some, I guess, Coke or something to drink, and whether we had anything to give them, I don't know, but you were warned, that the colonel would be visiting you, but I didn't pay any attention to it. But he came one time. Oh, that was terrible. And this upstairs had a kitchen. Then off the side was like a dining room and living room together. And then off of that was a little bedroom. And then you could go up in the attic from there. In this little bedroom, we had our beds and just a crib and a dresser filled the whole room. It was such a tiny room, the place that we rented. But young couple that owned the place, they were real nice to us. And I say the old maids next door, they always like to see you come out and, be playing outside. So but that was something else.
That was in Seymour?
And Seymour before Pat was born. Mm-hmm.
What sacrifices did you make during the war?
Well, you moved away from your family. That was something that you never dream of, And although they did move our furniture and everything, and paid for my moving into, and then your father rented this house, and then Uncle Jimmy took you and me to Rockford, Illinois, and we made it in 2 days. I don't know why. And we went part way, and then we went and rented a room, I guess, in a house, and took your bed. We took it along, had to set it up to have you sleep in it at night. And then Uncle Jimmy said he was my husband, and then he slept on the floor someplace, and I slept on the bed next to you, and I'll never forget that. Oh, God, that was something else. But thinking of, that's a little bit farther than Chicago to make it in 2 days, but, we had traveling with you, and we didn't know how you would be in traveling, and so that's why we stopped. Oh, God, that was something else. And then, then they called, and Uncle Jack had to register, because he was of age and that, and at that time, he had to register. So instead of registering in Cleveland, he came down to Greenville, and he registers down there. That's why his name isn't on that place on Green Road now, Green and Anderson Road. Your father's name is there, but not Uncle Jack, because he entered the Army down in Greenville, Mississippi. And he used to babysit while we'd go out sometimes, and then Jimmy Armstrong was a good friend, and their son, they call him Bubba Armstrong down there, the boys, brothers were called Bubba. And so we had we went out for dinner one time, the Armstrongs and us, and they brought their, what was her name? Him, Jimmy Jr. instead of Junior, it's Bubba, and had our babysitter. When we come home, here she had hit the bottle. She was half drunk, and had the 3 kids. That was crazy. And then Pat fell down. They had a radiant heater. That's the way they heated the homes. And she fell on, that hot thing. And she said, I was going to put some ink or something on it. Oh, I almost died because I thought, if she ever did, she'd have a scar on there, forever. But she didn't hurt herself. She just was real hot, and on her hand, and that's why she was crying. But, it was terrible. to think, that she saw that bottle of liquor that we had, and she had some of it. Babysitting 3 kids. So that was one episode.
I hadn't heard that one.
Yeah.
What are the kinds of things you did for fun?
Played golf. We lived on Golf Street, 108 Golf Street. That was the name of the place. And at the end of the road, that was a new road, and there only one house across the street, I think, was built. And I used to get somebody to babysit for you, and then I'd go down and play golf. And I won one of the tournaments because I was the only one there. The other girl, she was in the service too, and she had to stay home and take care of her kids. So I was the only one, and so I won a trophy, a glass vase or something, and it had a silver bottom to it. And in moving it, it broke. Oh, I was so mad because that's the first trophy I got playing golf. I played lousy, I guess. I don't remember. And we had not too many things. That was Greenville was the what did they call it? Entrance to the south or something. That used to have a big sign. I don't think we ever took a picture of that at downtown. And then I used to ride a bicycle to go down to do some shopping. And I don't know.
And where were we?
When you had a babysitter for you. Oh, you could. That was when the blacks and the whites. You go to the store. They had drinking fountains, and one was for the black and one for the white. They separated, and the black people were always shunned, and charged for everything, and so you had plenty of help. And we had a young girl come, paid her $7 a week. She came every day but Sunday, and she would come in the morning, and I'd have some washing. Of course, I had a washing machine, and they didn't know what a washing machine was, because everybody washed, gotta have something to drink. And Jimmy always told her, he said, if you weren't black, I'd adopt you, because they liked her so much, and was a wonderful babysitter for their kids. Jimmy, and then they had a younger little girl. They had 2 children. And the one that babysat, then she moved up north or something, and she used to write us a card, and tell us what she did, because up north, you were the same as you were different down south at that time. The blacks and the whites, they were separated.
Was that true in Florida too?
Not so much in Florida. We had help, down there, but I don't think. But Mississippi was something else. And then and then when it was cotton picking time, nobody had help because all the blacks would go out picking cotton, and the people used to shove all their dirty clothes in the closet and wait for the time when it would rain or something, so they'd get their help back. Because they did the washing by hand, that on a washboard, and that we had a wash machine. We had a wash machine up in. We had an apartment. I think we had a wash machine. No, an apartment. I think we used their washing machines, but in Seymour, Indiana, I think we got one. And I know the man next door come over and said, I got to see how this works. So we had it good, to do the washing like that. That hang the washing out, and then when you take a nap, then I'd go to the store that, and then your help would iron the wash that was hanging up, while you had your nap. And then when you got up, they took care of you. Because I know this one gal going down, I was waiting for someone to come so I could go play golf. Imagine, first you didn't know. And I saw this gal, I says, "Hey, come on, babysit for me, I want to play golf." So she came, and I told her where everything was, and of course I was only gone, a couple hours. But I remember the one time, I don't know whether she was looking for me or, because I think I called for somebody, but I don't know. But everybody had help. At the base, well, they had dancing and dinners, that you get the babysitter to come in, and you always dressed more or less formal, because I used to wear all this. And Rosemary and Joe came one time. I don't know where they were. They were in Mississippi, Indiana, or someplace. Anyway, they came to visit, and so I had your father go upstairs, or Uncle Jack had clothes packed up, in a storage space up. But I said, go up there and bring the suitcase down and give Rosemary Fink a dress so she could come to the dance at the base. Yeah, they used to have nice dinners and dances, and almost once a week, once or twice. Well, that's when we were when the war ended. I think everyone was so glad it ended, that it was almost like you were speechless, and it was something else. When we were in Seymour, we used to play poker a lot. We had the colonel over, and group, and we rented this house, had a living room, a big dining room. We had the poker table in there. It was a good life, though. You were always getting dressed to go someplace. And
what were you hoping for after the war? What were your thoughts?
We're glad to get home, get back. And I didn't know. I think your father only had about 2 or 3 more years before he could retire. At that time, you didn't think about those things. To retire and get a pension and all that kind of stuff. But your father wanted to come back and open his office. He put all his stuff in storage, and then he had some kind of apparatus that the government made us go and have them check it in storage. We had our furniture in storage, and this apparatus that we weren't supposed to have, I don't know what it was, that he had in the office, for being a doctor and that. Everybody was upset. Some were going in the war, and the young fellows that had to register, and be called in, and you never knew what was going on, whether someone in the family would be called in, and you didn't know when sent overseas whether you'd be killed or where you would be. I don't know.
Since many people who were not around during this war might read or see parts of this interview, what would you like people to remember about the war and about you?
Well, we did what we could. We tried to do everything with the service, and that, and I guess everybody tried to help as much as they could. If they heard about some fundraising or some doings, or someone was killed in the war and they were having a service for them, they tried to ease the pain, of someone. But that's what you'd think. Anybody sent overseas, well, you'd never see them again. That's the feeling you get, when they send overseas. Just like now, with the war going on, all those people going over, you don't know whether, and the ones that ever going to come back. So it's not, I don't know how it got mixed up so much in the Second World War. You know, of course, Japan got us in Pearl Harbor, and that started something, but of course, I don't know how the First World War got going.